Begin the current Daf Mesechta Bava Metzia Daf Nun Dal. Begin on the bottom of Nun Gimel Beis, 5 lines up on the bottom of the Amud, where the Gemara continues in this discussion. Again, how we're segueing from one to the next of Meiser Sheni, which is really the thing that we spoke about in our previous Mishnah, which we're speaking about the halacha of a coin got depreciated. The point is that we spoke about this halacha of Meiser Sheni, and we spoke about that it has to have a Shava Pruta for what? For we had machlekes, is it the chaimish or is it the Meiser Sheni itself? So in the related discussion of the Meiser Sheni, the Gemara actually gets into details about this chaimish halacha when you want to redeem it, that you have to add on the fifth, how to qualify that fifth. Through the entire world. So discussing today's daf are, is this chaimish milagav or milavar? What does that mean? Do we divide the principal amount by 5? So you say the principal is 20, is keren. Divided by 5, split up into 5 parts, that's going to make a chaimish a fourth. So that means to say you're going to take 20 plus 4, an additional 20%, is going to make it into 24. When you're going to give now, your Meiser Sheni, you're going to take up funds to Yerushalayim, you'll be taking up 24 zuz worth. Or do you say no? Chomsim lavar. We divide the principal amount by 4 because you want to get the sum total of a fifth on the outside. When you have this another part, so you can take 20 divided by 4, which is 5. So you can add 20 plus 5 is 25. It's an additional 25%. Now that what means to say is that you have a fifth after you had now 4 parts. You have another one which is another whole part. So do you take a fifth from within, or it's a fifth from the sum total? It's going to be a fifth, which 25. A sum total is now you added on a fifth of each part being a 5 of the original 4 quarters. Now you have another. So that's the question: is it going to be 24 zuz or 25? And additionally, the Gemara asks: is chaimish ma'akev or ein ma'akev? Is it critical for? Of course, you're supposed to give it, but is it critical for the redemption or not? Moreover, is chaimish kamaisai? Do we say regarding ma'aser and hektish that the chaimish has the same halacha as the principle itself? What happens halacha of nasan zakem nasan chaimish? You give the principle, you don't give the fifth, and also chumsha the chumsha. Is there a fifth on the fifth? What happens if you go ahead and you now misappropriate the fifth? Would you say that the fifth will have the same halacha as that original fifth? Regarding gezel, that one pays chumsha the chumsha. Regarding truma, one pays chumsha the chumsha. Regarding ma'aser sheni, one does not pay chumsha the chumsha. And the question is, regarding hektish, does one pay chumsha the chumsha? In other words, is there a fifth on the fifth of these halachas, which they all have halacha of a fifth? Question is, does then that extend to a fifth of a fifth? Now, regarding the chaimish of hektish, Shimon Levi says that al hektish rishon meisav chaimish. You have to add a chaimish only if it redeems an item that has an original hektish. Al hektish sheni meisav chaimish. He does not add a chaimish if he redeems an item that has a secondary hektish that was transferred from another item. Then halacha does not apply when you redeem it to add on a fifth. So begin the current daf, the bottom of the Gimel Beis, 5 lines up at the bottom of the Amud. He boiled the following question: Chumsha, this chaimish, is it milagav? Is it from within? Meaning, if you have this item that's worth 20 zuz, do you add on 4 zuz, which is a fifth of the principal, or chumsha milabar, or is a fifth from the outside, from the external? Meaning, on the 4 quarters that there is over here, that each one is 5, you can add on a fifth from without, which that's going to be for the 20 zuz. You can add on 5 zuz. What is the chaimish? Some rabbis says Tashma to bring a raya from a Mishnah Mesechta Erechin of Chavazayin Medalv, which is told about a person that if he sanctifies, he's makdish his teachuz, his ancestral field. The halacha is when there's no yovel, he redeems his hektish, and the Bryce says like this: what happens if habayim oimer be'esim? So they have a bidding war, right? You have to have hektish says we're selling this guy's ancestral field that is makdish to the Beis Hamikdash, and the original owner says, I'll redeem my field for 20 zuz. Everyone else is also giving a bid of 20 zuz. The owner, he gets first dibs. Why? Because the halacha is that the owner has to add on a fifth when he's redeeming his stiachuz. So his 20 is really 25 because everyone else is not adding on a fifth. So of course his bid is going to be more preferred. Right. So that's what we're going to. Right. So that's what we're going to see about. Right. Yeah. Right. Because we're going to see that is the chumsha milabah. That's what the Gemara is going to answer. Right. But so far we didn't say yet what it is. Right. So I mean that's where we come to being a proof how we evaluate the chaymish. Now, if someone says someone has a higher bid of 21. So as we continue about Nun Dal Medal, still says the Mishnah, the owners forcibly have to give Esrim B'Sheish. They have to give 26. Why? So Rashi explains on the top of the Amid. You can't give it to the guy who bid 21 because comes out Hektish is going to lose the 5 slime that the owner had bid 20, which is 25. Now the owner at the same time cannot diminish from the principal that the other guy evaluated because someone gave a higher bid. So he has to give 21 for the principal, and he has to still give his 5, that's his additional fifth. Now Rashi explains that what the other bid had made it go up by 1 coin. On that 1 coin, he doesn't have to add a fifth. He only has to give a fifth on the original principal that he had bid on. But he's got to give that extra 1, so it's going to turn out to be 26. Let's say someone else comes up with a bid for Esrim Mishnayim for 22. The owner has to give now 27. Because again, he can't be lower bid. At the same time, we can't have Hektish lose out. Let's someone else has a bid of 23. The owner has to give 28. Let's someone has a bid for Esrim Abba of 24. Esrim Tesh has to give 29. What happens if Esrim B'Chamish? Someone has a bid for 25. No one has to give 30 now. Rashi brings in the Gemara the Gemara asks, says, wait a second, why don't you tell the treasurer, why don't you tell the guy who's doing the bidding? He says, what do you mean someone took my place? I was going to give 25, and this guy's willing to, I bid 20, but that would make me with an additional 5, a fifth be 25. This guy's giving a bid of 25, he's not losing out. So why are you going to force me to give 30 because of my original bid of 20, which was 25, and this guy's giving 25? Why doesn't he take it in place? The Gemara over there explains why that is. Now, the end of the Mishnah actually says, when someone bids 26, then no, because that's why he has to give 25. No, that's because we said that you can't do you can't do less than a bid that someone else gave. But when someone else is bidding 25, that's
you need to give at least
25. No, my original bid was 20. This says the owner, which is 25. Now someone else is bidding 25. Let him get it. Why are you making me buy it?
But by 21, you said that you have to give 21 because you have to match the principal.
Right.
So why don't you say the same by 25? You have to match the principal.
No, the only reason I have to match the principal is because we can't have Hektish lose. That's why I have to match. I can't have Hektish lose. I understand, but a bit of the principal they would have lost.
Okay, so the same thing here. So the bit of the principal 25, you have to match 25.
Yeah, but that's only because I hear what you're saying, but that's only because of the final total amount. There's 2 ideas: there's principal and there's total amount. We can't have Hektish lose on either one of them. Can't do lower bid, so I got to give the 21, 22, 22. But when there's 25, okay, so that's already. I'm not going to give less than the total amount. They're getting the total. So Hektish is getting the total amount anyway.
You didn't bid above 20.
Right.
You didn't bid above 20.
Right.
No, I understand.
Right. You're asking. Right.
You have to match the amount that you gain from his thing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. Maybe I have to know what the Gemara Erchan says over there. But I'll upon him. But the Gemara says over there that when it gets to 26, he says, "Oh, you got ticha. It's okay. Now that guy gets it. Okay." But the main point is, says the Mishnah, you don't have to add a fifth on what this guy is upping the bid. But you have to give that bid. But your fifth will be from your original bid. But one thing is, obviously that the chaimish is from without, because you had said that a chaimish was of his original bid of 20 is how much? It's 5 slum, because you said that 25 is the max. So obviously it's a chaimish because it would have been 24. And that's why we said Rashi said over the 25 that obviously you evaluate the chaimish from without, not from within, and therefore it's 25, not 24. Okay, but the Gemara says Ketanoi, it's actually Machlekes Tanoim. Why? Because the pasuk says V'yikra, V'yosef Chamishisai Olav, that a person that if he's redeeming his animal, so he adds on a fifth on it. What does that teach? Shehu v'chaimshay chamisha divir b'yeshia. He says that what does it mean you add on the fifth? That the item and its fifth will be 5, meaning from without, which is a quarter of the principal. So with the fifth, it's now 5 because it was the 4 quarters, and now you're adding on. The sum total will be 5. Then somebody says no, chamishisai, it's fifth means chamishisai keren. It's fifth, a fifth of the principle. It's chamish malagav. So you see, it's a machlekes tanoim if you say chamish malavar or chamish malagav. Okay, that ends that part. Now I boil another question on this theme: is chamish ma'akiv, is halacha of adding a fifth critical for the consumption of eating, let's say, your ma'aser sheni out of the walls of Yerushalayim until you give the chamish, or it's not critical, as the Gemara explains? Do you say dal b'dal parak that the 4 zuz worth of fruit is redeemed with 4 zuz, and vakanav shem by itself? Then moisim chamish. Then you add on a fifth, but it's not part of the redemption because the 4 zuz redeems the ma'aser, which is that value. Alma chamish lema'akiv. So you say obviously the chamish is not critical. I didn't know. Arba b'chamsha parak. No, 4 zuz worth is actually redeemed with 5 zuz, and that's exeis hakasim, that the chamish is part of the pidyon. And if it's worth 4, it's not redeemed less than 5. And the fifth is critical. That's the Gemara's question. So Mabina says, Tashma, let's bring a rai of a Mishnah Masechtas Demai. The Mishnah says, Hademai, which Ma'aser Sheni of Demai, the Chamim obligated the buyer to separate from the produce he bought from from ignoramus, says the Mishnah, Ein Chaimish. There's no halacha if the owner now is redeeming it, he does not have to add on a fifth. And Ein beer. In the 3rd year of the Shemitah cycle, all Jewish people are commanded to get rid of all the maasros from their house, to give it to whoever they want to, like it says, Miktei Shalashanim. There's no halacha beer on this maaser of the demai. Now, hakeren yeshle, but obviously we're saying that the principle there is, as long as it was not redeemed, you're not allowed to eat it out of the walls of Yerushalayim. Now, my time, what's the reason there's no chemish, but there is keren, but there is principle? It's because keren, by the principle of the ma'akbid deraisa, which is critical on biblical level, on maaser deraisa, so therefore that you have to do. So therefore, Isa b'drabana will apply it even by the rabbinic maaser of demai. Chaimish, on the other hand, a fifth, this is not critical on the biblical level. Lesser b'drabanan is not going to apply by the rabbinic level of the demai. So you see, says the Gemara, that chaimish is clearly not ma'akiv for the pidyon. Yeah, because you tell me ein chaimish. If it's saying there's no chaimish, so obviously you tell me about keren there is, and you have to be concerned for that, and you have to go ahead and be masakin that of the peiros of the amoritz that you bought from, because it's saying chaimish ein loy, so that would infer that keren yesh loy. Says the Gemara, let me get that noy. The Gemara says, you know what? Let's suggest that actually it's a machlekes tanoim. Why? Because the Brisa says like this: Nasna sakaren b'leid nasna sachaimish. Someone gave the principle but didn't give the fifth. So Rabbi Lezer says, "Yochel, okay, you could eat it." Shlomi says, "Lo yochel, you can't eat it." Now, wait, the Gemara is not done yet explaining the extent of this. It would seem right away, okay, that seems to be a machlekes of the chaimish ma'aker or not. But the Gemara explains, I'm a Rebbe. Rebbe says, "Nirin de Rabbi Eliezer b'Shabbos." It would appear the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that says you could eat it on Shabbos. What shaykh is Shabbos? Rashi explains, because of covered Shabbos, we don't want you to hold back from eating it because you didn't give the chaimish yet. We want you to have food on Shabbos. But it seemed to Rabbi Yeshua that you cannot eat it b'chal on the weekday. Now, says the Gemara, from the fact that Rebbe said, near the Rabbi Eliezer b'Shabbos, that it appears the halacha would be like Rabbi Eliezer on Shabbos, but on the weekday, I don't agree to what he's saying. The inference is that he would hold, even on during a weekday, you could eat it. And we're talking about regular meiser over here. Now, the other way also works. But the Amman near the Rabbi Yeshua b'chal, from the fact that Rebbe says that he likes the opinion of Yeshua during a weekday, that you cannot eat it, comes that Rabbi Shua himself holds that even on Shabbos you cannot eat it. Oh, so my love, so they're disagreeing from across the board. So my love isn't a bahasam or kamifagi. They're disagreeing on this logic. Rabbi Eliezer holds chaimish lama that chaimish lama therefore you could eat it at all times, even weekday Shabbos. Rabbi Shua says no, chaimish is ma'akiv. Therefore you cannot eat even on Shabbos. Seemingly there's a machlekes tanoim of chaimish ma'akiv or not. So my papa says loy, not necessarily. The Kulei Ami, you could say that everyone holds chaimish is loy ma'akiv, that the fifth is not ma'akiv, that the one who's going to eat it should get lashes because of leisuchel lechel b'sharecha. No, it's not ma'akiv. So it's not ma'akiv. So what's the problem? Why can't you eat it? Here the machlekes is simply regarding, are we concerned for the person's negligence? Meaning, Marsa, but this Rabbi Shua said you cannot eat it. It's rabbinic concern. We're concerned that the guy's negligent. He's just going to be mi'ayish. He's going to say, you know what, Shengetin, the pidyon, Mustavachtin, the chaimish, he's done with this. He's not going to be giving. So we say, you know what, you can't eat it. Can't eat it. Oh, suddenly you see how fast people come running and they start giving what they have to give. Marsa Rabbi Lezer held no loichish on b'shiyusa. Not concerned with b'shiyusa. You could go ahead and you could eat it even though you didn't give the chaimish. So it's not necessarily machlekes. No, everyone agrees that the chaimish is not ma'akiv like we said before. Now, the Gemara qualifies. It says Hakol Maidim, but everyone agrees. However, the hektish shechilul, when you are deconsecrating hektish, since the hektish, the guys in charge, the president of the hektish, the treasurers, they come claiming money in the street from you for the chaimish, then we don't have to be concerned for negligence, because trust me, you're going to end up paying up like a tatala. So therefore, yes, everyone would agree over there, even Bishua, that we're not concerned for Pshusa, and you could go ahead and eat it even without having given the chaimish. Says Gemara, really? They don't disagree by hektish? But if we give the principle, did not give the fifth. It says chilul, it's deconsecrated. But Chamim loichil, it says it's not deconsecrated. Now again, Amr Rebbe says he comes to qualify. He says near in the Rabbi Eliezer hektish says I like what Rabbi Eliezer is saying regarding hektish, that you could eat it, because since the Gizbarim will anyways claim the money from you, we're not concerned with negligence. And then appears the Pinel Chacham who said you cannot eat it if you didn't give the chaimish by meiser. Now says the Gemara, but for the fact that Rebbe says that he likes what Rebbe is saying is by hektish, Machlad the Palag of meiser comes to Rebbe himself who says you cannot eat it is saying even by meiser. May they come in there in Divrei Chachamim, but meaning that says that you could eat it, Rebbe Eliezer, that is b'chol. We're saying both ways. So he says yes, that it would seem like even by meiser hold you could eat it, which doesn't have the gizbarim type of meiser, because when the Kamei says near the Chacham by meiser, he likes what the Chacham is saying by meiser. Machlal the pligi of hektish comes out that they disagree with my hektish. So wait a second, didn't you tell me everyone agrees by hektish that you could eat it, not concerned for not giving the chaimish? But you see the Chacham who Rebbe says I like what they're saying by meiser, that you cannot eat it then, sounds like that they disagree with my hektish, so you cannot eat it then also. So Gemara says you're right. It's not like what we said. Not like Rabbi Yochanan said that everyone agrees by hektish shechilul that you can eat without giving the chaimish. It's slightly different. Maybe the teacher Rabbi Yochanan's teaching, it's like this. Rabbi Yochanan says hakol moedim b'Shabbos behektish shechilul. The one more word added over here. Everyone agrees on Shabbos that by hektish that it's going to be considered as a chilul even without having given the chaimish, because there's an additional reason over here. Chada, first of all, the Chassid says busting Yeshaya for Karos Shabbos. You should call it for Shabbos, that it should be a delight. So we want you to be able to have food on Shabbos. But in addition, the collectors, they go and they try to claim it to you from the street. So we're not concerned for negligence. But you're right, if it's just the hektish, not on Shabbos, then you're right, the Chacham still disagree and they hold that we're concerned for Peshiyusa and you cannot eat it if you did not give the chaimish yet. Now, continue on this halacha of the chaimish. Amram Abachama. He says, Hare Amru, they said in Mesechtes B'chayris in the last paragraph of the Alpha and Aleph, that hektish inim eschal ala karka. Hektish, animal hektish cannot be deconsecrated on a piece of property. Why? Because the Torah says in Yikra, but nasan hakesef akamloi, that the person will give money and it'll be his. Which the pasuk over there says, "V'mamaktish yigal is base." If the one who's maktish is going to redeem his house, v'yosef chamishis kers of erech chalav, and he's going to add on a fifth of the money of the erech value on him. B'hoyle is going to be his. So you see that you have to give money, but it also says that you have to give a chaimish. So the question is, chum shoymao sheizchal al karka. What's the halacha? Could the chaimish be deconsecrated on real estate, on property? Does it have the same limitation as the principal or not? That's one question. Another question is, I'm going to answer all these questions in one answer. Truma. If a non-kohen eats truma by mistake, then we know the halacha is in mishtalemis, it cannot be paid back for payers of chulin, which the tashlumin becomes truma. That's elam min chulin. It could only be from unconsecrated produce, meaning what he gives. The Rachman, because the Torah says that he's going to give the kohen the holy things, meaning what he gives to the kohen becomes kodesh. So obviously we needed something that could become kodesh. Is davar royally is kodesh. What's something that's fit to be kodesh is a chulin. So chulin produce which could become kodesh. Now the question is, what about the fifth that you have to add on as a zar who ate the truma b'shegi? That chaimish, could you give that not from chulin? Meaning, as Rashi explains, let's say money or garment, something that's worth kesef, but it cannot. It itself will not become truma. Unlike if you're giving chulin produce, which will become truma, can you give the chaimish from money, or do you have to give that also from produce that can become truma. Another question. So we spoke about hektish, we spoke about truma. Now we're going to the next category, meiser. We know a halacha by meiser is emeschal al hasimon, cannot be deconsecrated on an unminted coin, because Rahman Amar the Torah says that you bind the money in your hand, which it includes anything that has a form, it has to have a mint, it has to be a coin. Now, what's the halacha regarding the additional fifth when you deconsecrate that you add on? Could you be mechal that on an asimon? So all these are related questions regarding the chaimish. Just there's certain halachas of the principle that we want to know. Does that halach of the principle apply? Well, then hektish and the truma and the maisa, would that apply to the chaimish too? So the Gemara says, "Hiskalgal milso motel coming to So this kept on going from person to person. The shaila came to in front of Rava. Amlu said to them, Amakra, by all of them, when it talks about the chaimish, it says Yosef Allah. You add on the chaimish on it. What's it? To add on that the fifth has the halacha like all the halachas of the principle, and therefore will have all the limitations that we spoke about by the hektish, the truma, and the maisa. And the Rabbi says, we learned in the Mishnah Masechtas Trumas. Mishnah says, someone stole truma and he didn't eat it. So the halacha is obviously you have to give back the truma as it is. So the halacha is, as any time a ganav is caught with red it's in his hands, it's caught red-handed. He has to pay a double amount, which is a penalty when you steal it. You have to give money that's demei truma, meaning however much it's worth to be sold in the marketplace, which the value of truma is worth less than chulin, because it's only fit for kahanim, a limited a consumer pool, and it's also not fit when he's tamei. And if it becomes tamei, it's forbidden to be eaten. So it's worth less. That's what we mean to say when you pay demei truma, however much truma is worth. Now achala, if let's say the guy who stole it by mistake ate the truma because he didn't know there was truma, so now mashalom shnei kuranim. He's going to pay two principles: one for the principle that he stole, and one for the kefil because he stole it, and the chaimish. He has to add on the fifth also now because he ate it, which is a unique halacha regarding eating truma. Now, how does he pay it? Says the Mishnah, the keren v'chaimish, and this is the main words over here. The keren and the fifth that you're adding on is minachulin, meaning it has to be fixed payros that will turn into truma when you pay it back. So you see from this halacha that not only the keren is from the chulin, but the chaimish is also from the chulin. That's the main idea we wanted to show, that the halacha of the principle applies to the fifth too. Now, vakeren, the second principle, which is coming because of the knas of kefil, of geneva, that you also pay of demei truma. In other words, monies, not payers, but monies, however much truma is sold in the marketplace. Says Gemara, again, this proves our point that chemshe is kamaisai, that the fifth is like it itself, meaning that you have to pay payros, not money, for the chaimish, unlike the kefil, which could be monies in the demei of truma. Shema mina, that proves the point that the chaimish is kamaisai, as we said. Once he gives it to the kohen, it becomes truma. When he pays back to the kohen, that's what the Torah says, that he's going to give it back. It's going to compensate the kohen. It's going to go back to be truma, this chulin that you're giving him back to him. So yeah. What? Yeah, and then it becomes back to truma when he gives it to him, and the chaimish has the same halacha too. Now, continuing on the chaimish, Omar Rava, we know gabe gezel by someone when someone is a robber, and there's halacha of asham gizelis. He has to bring a carbon and he has to do a certain type of kapara. So, except the pasuk says of a yikra, if a guy steals and he denies and then he swears falsely, so the Torah says v'chamishisav yosem alav, that now when he pays back, not only has to give back the principal, now that he swore falsely, he has to add on a fifth too. Now the thing is, v'chamishisav is in the plural. Sounds like that there's many fifths. What is many fifths? So it's now we learn the Mishnah in Baba Kama that says sometimes there's more than 1/5. How is that possible? So nosan lo yasai keren. Let's say after he swore falsely and then he admitted, and then he became liable for the principal on the fifth. So he gives him the principal, but then this guy didn't learn his lesson. This guy now denies the fifth. He says, I already gave it to you, the fifth. And he swears to that effect. And then he admits, it's true, I was lying. I never gave you the fifth. He's a Meisav Chaimish al Chaimish. So this guy has to give a Chaimish on his Chaimish that he denied. Now, so too, let's say he gives him the first fifth that he swore about, and then he swears and denies regarding the second Chaimish, and then he admits he has to add on a Chaimish on that second Chaimish, and so too, and so on and so forth. Actually, Karen, until the principle gets diminished, meaning whichever Chaimish that he was already obligated, that he then subsequently denied, that's called the principle. Until the denial of his oath is going to be Pachis Meshaber Pruta, less than Shaber Pruta, he'll continuously be Chayiv a Chaimish on the Chaimish on the Chaimish on the Chaimish. Okay. Now, says the Gemara, that's regarding Gezel. Now, Gabi Truma, if someone eats Truma by mistake, Siv the Pasuk says in Vayikra, Ish ki yechel kodesh b'shgaga, that if a person goes and he eats the holy item, although it says kodesh, it means Truma, by mistake, Allah is v'yosef chamishisei olav. He has to add on its fifth. Now here, it's in the singular, not in the plural, which sounds like only 1/5. Now, in spite of that, what's not the Mishnah teaches in Truma, and it's very important that in spite of that, Mishnah Truma teaches, if somebody eats Truma by mistake, halacha is Masham Karen B'chaimish, he pays a principal on the fifth. Now this is Echad or Eichel, whether you ate the Truma, whether you drank the Truma, whether you smeared the Truma, which actually very importantly, it's a huge discussion in the Paiskim regarding Pesach, regarding using deodorant or creams, all these different things. If you let's say take Truma oil, which we know that Allah is Sicha Kishtia, smearing is like drinking, and drinking is like eating, as the Gemara says in the last parak in Yomei Daf Vav Med Aleph, drinking is like eating. We learn that from V'chat Avnei Hashem, which it says eating in front of Hashem, but one of the items are tereishcha, which is wine. So you see that drinking wine is like eating. And we know sicha is like shtia, smearing is like drinking, because it says v'tavik kamayim b'kirbai, it's gonna be like water coming inside of him, ukeshemet batzmaisim, and like oil on his bones, which you smear the oil onto your bones, it's like drinking. So if smearing is like drinking and drinking is like eating, so basically that's where they comes out with the halach of chametz, that there are places that machmer, that they're not to use things that are chametz, even though you're not eating it, but the smearing is like the eating. Now, but if let's say you got rid of the truma in some other way, you burnt it, let's say, you wouldn't pay a chaimish. Because the Torah says, Ish ki yechal kodesh. It says a man's going to eat kodesh. That excludes if he just damages the truma some other way that's not eating. But eating or drinking, or even smearing, which is like drinking, which is like eating, any one of these ways has this halacha of adding a chaimish. Now this is echad truma ta'ira. This is whether the truma is tar, echad truma tamei, whether the truma is tamei. Either way, masham chumash, you pay a fifth. And this is the main point that we wanted to bring out. V'chumsha the chumsha, and a fifth of the fifth. Meaning, for example, let's say he gave the principal and a fifth from chulin, like the halacha is, and then the tashlumin became truma. Now he went and eat that chaimish. Okay, he has to pay that chaimish now and the chaimish of that chaimish. So that's important. That although by truma it doesn't say in the plural, it's in the singular, we still see it has the halacha of chaimish and the chaimish. Now, regarding redeeming Maisa Sheni, the pasuk also says the chamishisa yosef alav. Also says in the singular it's fifth. So loy michtav ksivi. It doesn't say over there in the Torah any understanding of adding on more than 1/5. And v'loy misnetana. And neither do we have a Mishnah or Brisa teaching us the chumsha. For example, let's say a person went and he was machal the first chaimish, so now go ahead and have to add on the fifth on that fifth. And and we didn't even ask it as a question if you add on the fifth or not, because it was so obvious to us that you don't add on the fifth, because we don't find any allusion to it from a pasuk, like we find by Truma a little allusion, as the Gemara is going to tell us later on, because by Truma it says v'yosef chamishi sai, and it doesn't say this Yosaf by Meiser, which the word Vayosaf sounds like two additions, adding on, but one, just Yosaf, sounds like one. So as we're going to say later on, there is an understanding of Truma that maybe it'll be Chumsha the Chumsha. So that's why we know there is such halacha. But by Meiser, we had no Havamina, we know for sure there's no Chumsha the Chumsha. Now, Gabi Hektish is what we're discussing now. When someone redeems his Hektish, Ksivit says, if the one who's saying if he's going to redeem his house, it says, Yosef Chamishas Kesef Erkacha, you can add on a fifth of the value of what it's worth. Now, Tanah, the Mishnah, which is the Mishnah later on, the next Daf, and Avnei Bey says, someone redeems his Hektish. Moisef Chaimish adds on the fifth. Now says the Gemara, Chumsha Tanan. It says only a fifth. Chumsha the Chumsha like that doesn't say in the Mishnah about a fifth of the fifth. What's the halacha if someone goes and now deconsecrates that chaimish? Would he add on the chaimish on that chaimish? What's the question? So do we say like this? And this was important, like what we said before. Do you say that we find Gabi Truma that even though it doesn't say Chamishi Sav, doesn't say in the plural like it says by Gezel, still the Mishnah told us you give a Chaimish of the Chaimish. Oh, you know why? Because Iksiv Vayasaf, which sounds like two additions. Now, if the reasoning is because of the understanding, so here also Gabi Kodesh Namik Iksiv Vayasaf. So maybe you would have to add on the Chaimish of the Chaimish. That's one side. Or maybe says the Gemara, no. The reason by Truma is not because of the understanding of the word Vayasaf. It's because of what's called Gairin Umesifin V'darshan. We actually could take letters, we could take it off of one word, add on to another word, and make a drasha. So therefore like this. Now by Truma it says Vayasaf, by Truma it says Vayasaf like this. Ishakle lavav de Vayasaf. Mamish like interesting the way the Gemara is saying. You're going to take off the vav of Vayasaf, and now you'll read the pasuk Yosef Chamishi Sai. So that's what it would be so far. You take off the vav. Now Vishadisle, you're going to take the vav and put it on the end Al Chamishi Sai. What is that going to do? Havale Chamishi Sav, because you have two vavs. Instead of reading it Chamishi Sai, it's Chamishi Sav, which sounds like many Chamishiyos. That's why maybe by Truma, not because of the word Vayasav, because of Chamishi Sav. But over here, Gabi Hektish Ksiv, Vayasav Chamishis. It says you add on a Chamishis. Even we'll do your shtickle Torah. We'll take the Vav of Vayasav, V'shadis al Chamishis, and we'll add on to the word Chamishis. Saif Havle Chamishi Sai. At the end of the day, you're not there. It only makes it into Chamishi Sai. It's fifth. So that's the question. Would you say Hektish would have more than one Chamish because it has the word Vayasaf? Or do you say no, the shtickle Torah by Truma is because of the extra Vav that makes Chamishi Sai into Chamishi Sav? But by Hektish only says Chamishis, it's going to make it only Chamishi Sai. It's still going to be singular. That's the Gemara's question. Now, the Gemara, however, asks on the Gemara's question. The Gemara says, what is Rabbi's question? But typically, what do you mean? It should be sufficient that if, let's say, someone went back and he was machal the first chaimish, of course you're not going to add on the chaimish. What are you even asking? Why? For a different reason. Because the havale hek sheni. That makes that even if you went back and you machal the original keren another time, which you take the place of the first chil that you did, you're not going to add on the chaimish. So the chaimish, which was also once, you're not going to add on the chaimish, but simply because it's a second tier hektish. And the Amr B'Shubal Levi says a hektish rishon meisav chaimish only for the first hektish do you add on the chaimish. I like the sheni meisav chaimish. Something that was already once deconsecrated, you don't do a chaimish on that, as the Gemara learns out later on in the sugya. So what's the shaila? Simply from the fact that it was already once part of a redemption. Of course, you're not going to add on the chaimish onto that. Some very popular Ravina says, this is what Rabbi says. Chaimish kitchilas hektish, but it's not true. The chaimish is like the initial hektish because it was added on from itself. It wasn't taking the place of the first one. So therefore, our question is that no, because of hektish sheni, that wouldn't answer our question. We're still not sure that this chaimish, which is its first time around, would you add on the chaimish on that chaimish? So says Gemara Mahabala. So it is a valid question. What would the halacha be on that? So Daf Yomi Mishmei Dabai says Omakra. Pasuk says in Yikra says v'yosef chamishas kesef erkacha, that you add on a fifth of the monetary value of the hektish item. Makish chumsher lekesef erka. The pasuk is comparing the fifth to the monetary value of the principal. Ma kesef erka, just like the monetary principal meisav chamish add on the fifth of kesef chamsher nami meisav chamish also add on the fifth. So the halacha is that the hektish also has the halacha of the chumsha adding the fifth of the fifth. Now, the Gemara brings gufa. Once we introduced as a question, we go back to the teaching we introduced. Amr Shmuel Levi said, "Al hektish reached meisav chemish." On the first original hektish, you add on the fifth when you redeem it. Al hektish sheni, but when it was redeemed to, that second hektish, meisav chemish, when you redeem that, you don't add on the fifth onto that. So Rabbi says, "My Tim Shmuel Levi. What's the reason for Shmuel Levi? My it's hektish. Why would you say that you don't add on the fifth?" It says because Amakra the pasuk, as we mentioned before, says the mamakdish yigalas beisai. The one who's sanctified is going to redeem his house, he has to add on the fifth. Now that says hamakdish. If someone sanctified this item, v'loy hamatfis, not the one who captured this in place of the first one. but the second one only captures the sanctity of something else. It's not from its own original sanctity. That the pasuk is telling us you're not going to have the chaimish on that. Now, so too, it's similarly. Tani Kamid Rebbe Lazar. There was a teacher of Brises that taught in front of Rebbe Lazar. The following pasuk in Vayikra says that v'im bebehemat tmeya. Now, if it's a non-kosher animal, you can redeem it. You makdish it. You redeem it for its value. So the Torah says over there that you can add on a fifth over there. Now, the truth is the Torah should have written v'im behemat tmeya. What's v'im bibehemat tmeya? It's an extra base. What is that? So rather, what the pasuk is saying is that we're talking about that when you sanctify an item that's like a non-kosher animal, the pasuk is telling you then b'yosef chamishisai. What does that mean? We're trying to tell you bib behemat tmeya means just like a behemat tmeya. Ma behemat tmeya michad is just like a non-kosher animal is distinct. Shetchilas hektish, which it's the initial sanctification of an item, which the Gemara later is going to ask. What do you mean? You don't think you could have that the non-kosher animal could be the hekdesheni, that you would matchfes it to whatever was bedek abayis to take the place of something else that was hektish for bedek abayis? How do you know that? The Gemara is going to ask. But that's what the Gemara is saying right now, that the Brisa says, just like non-kosher animal is distinct, that it's the beginning of the hektish, v'kula shemayim. It's also totally for shemayim, where the owner has no rights in it anymore, because tam hektish of a non-kosher animal is specifically the bedek abayis, unlike that of, let's say, a carbon of hektish mizbeach, which the owner might have some rights to the meat, whatever. Bedek abayis, he has no rights to. U'ma'ilim ba. And there's also me'ilah, which the Gemara at this point assumes that we're talking about literal me'ilah, but it's not possible to say that, because first of all, the pasuk is not talking about me'ilah. Moreover, that even if it doesn't have all these things, me'ilah would still apply regarding hektish. So what shaykh is mo'ilim ba? So the Gemara is going to address that. So, but al kapanim av kol. So to anything else, shetchilas hektish. It's the initial hektish. The kula shemayim, and it's all for shemayim. So then mo'ilim ba. Then it's going to have the halacha me'ilah. So you see that the Bryce is saying that this halacha. But first, the Gemara asks, really, Amalei Rebbe Lazar Tani, he says, Bishlam, I understand the halacha of me'ilah that you can be chayiv is kula shemayim. When you're saying that me'ilah is only for something that's totally for shemayim, is the muti kachim kalam. We'd be excluding kachim kalam because keeping this lulabalim begavai, since the owner has rights, and unless it wouldn't be misappropriation because he has rights to it. When you're saying that the halacha of me'ilah only applies to the initial hektish, what's that excluding? Tchilas hektish who this, but me'ilah only initial hektish has me'ilah. Seif hektish has me'ilah. No one ever said that. Anything of hektish has me'ilah. It's misappropriating from the funds of hektish. So he says, no, Dilma, maybe when this Bryce said me'ilah, it didn't literally mean the halacha. We know the biblical halacha of me'ilah. It's not talking about having benefit from hektish. It's l'in chaimish kamrit. You were saying regarding the halacha of the fifth, and it's when you're coming to redeem hektish. So Rashi just explains it calls the chaimish me'ilah because by me'ilah it also applies the halacha of chaimish, but it really means chaimish. Doesn't really mean me'ilah, and it's coming to exclude hektish sheni, ukiyibshu ben Levi, like this teaching of Rabbi Shua ben Levi, which is that it's only hektish rishon, but hektish sheni is excluded. Amalei says, and this is what I was saying. But Taisus in different masal Dilma says, but you already excluded hektish sheni from the halacha of hamakdish from Levan Hamatves. Why do we need this pasuk over here from Behema with extra vase by Behema? So Taisus, that was talking about makdish beisai. Here it's talking about Behema Tmeya, which is matatlin, and therefore you need to have a separate drush for that. But it's the same idea. Now the Gemara asks on the Brisa, only Rav Ashlavina says, wait a second. Behema Tmeya, Betchilas hektish isa, a non-kosher animal is really only in when it's initial hektish, so you continue to talk about the name of be'emtza hektish lessa, and it cannot be in the middle of a stage of hektish. In other words, as Rashi explains, although you're right, you cannot have a non-kosher animal to be the end of the hektish, because what are you going to do with this non-kosher animal? It can't be slaughtered on the mizbeach. You can't put it in the building, so it can't be the final stage of this hektish sanctity, but it could be the second stage of the hektish. You could have taken this non-kosher animal to take the place of some other original hektish, and then you could redeem that. So how are you saying that? Oh, ma behemet tmei mechedes. That's what are you talking about? It could be empty hektish too. So Malay says, but no, lefisha en b'seif hektish. But the animal cannot be the end of hektish, and therefore we're excluding the middle of hektish also, as the Gemara is going to explain. So it says the Gemara, wait a second. It says, but be'emtza hektish mi'isa, it could be the middle stage of a hektish, and therefore you should have to add on chaimish, even not for hektish rishon, even for hektish sheni. Malay says, no, harehu, this emtza hektish, we compare kisayif hektish, like the end of hektish. which is Masev Hektish, just like the end of Hektish, we learn out that it's excluded from a Chaimish, because Behemoth Tamei cannot be Seif Hektish, and in the Ma'asav Chaimish, you don't add on a fifth. Of Emta Hektish, in the Ma'asav Chaimish, so through the middle of Hektish, you don't add on a fifth. Because, as Rashi explains the Masala of Emta, Seif Hektish, most definitely, without a miyut of the pasuk, you wouldn't be able to say it has halach of chaimish, because you're not redeeming it. So there's no chaimish, because it's the Seif Hektish. However, the miyut of the pasuk is effective to compare it to Emta Hektish. That without a miyut, you would not have learned out Emta Hektish from Seif Hektish, because over there it's not a shay, it doesn't apply chaimish. That's what we're learning of from Behemoth Tameya, to say that, it doesn't apply by Seif Hektish, so it's not going to apply by Emta Hektish either. So Amalei Rabbi Zutim Berei Drab Mari Rabbeinu says, "My chaz the medamas le Seif Hektish. Why are you comparing Emta Hektish to Seif Hektish? Medamas Tchilas Hektish. Why don't you compare it to Tchilas Hektish?" Amalei says, "No, mistaber le Seif Hektish. It makes sense that Emta Hektish would be compared to Seif Hektish, because she can nitfas min nitfas. Both of them are things that were transferred from somewhere else." So to the contrary, you should have compared it to Tchilas Hektish, because Shekin Davashesh Achav Kedusha, Davashesh Achav Kedusha. Both Rishon and Emtza have something that comes after it, whereas Seif has nothing coming after it. Says the Gemara, but could Amar Rabba, like Rabba says, in other words, we explicitly exclude Emtza Hektish from this halacha. How do you know that? Because like Rabba says in Mesechta Yomim Lamadal Man Alf, when it says Ha'oila, when it talks about the Seder Maracha of organizing the Mizbeach in the morning, it says Avir Allah Kohen, the Kohen is going to burn on the Mizbeach, Eitzim Babayker in the morning, Ha'oila, and then he's going to put on the Oila. What's hay, the extra hay, the Oila? It should be Oila Rishayna, the first Oila, that there should not be any sacrificing before the Tamid Shal Shachar. The hay means the first one. When it says Hatameya, the non-kosher animal, is Tamei Rishayna, is the first one, not the Emtzai. That's how we know that the halach of Chaimish, which what the pasuk is talking about, is only going to be by the Rishayna, not by the Emtzai, and for sure not by the Seif, because we said the Seif is not having Chaimish at all. The Gemara just concludes, we have a Brisa that says that there's no Chaimish by Hektish Sheni. Because the Brisa says, Parazu Tachas Parashal Hektish. Let's say someone says, this cow should take the transfer from the cow of Hektish. Or Talzu Tachas Tal Shal Hektish. This Tal should take the place of Tal of Hektish. Halach is, Hektish Padai. His Hektish is redeemed. Meaning, even though he didn't evaluate with a set amount of money, which we know the halacha is that Hektish that could be worth 100 dinar, if you machal on a shavat prut is mechul, and you're allowed to have benefit from it. However, you had Hektish al yayna, but Hektish still has the upper hand. Meaning, if the monies that you're giving is more than the value of the Hektish acquires that. And if Hektish is really worth more, you have to go ahead and pay up at the end of the day. So Hektish will have the upper hand. It's just that the chil takes effect right away. Now, let's say you say parazu b'chamish lam. Let's say this cow that's worth 5 slum, Tachas Parashal Hektish, should take the place of the cow of Hektish. Or Talazu b'chamish slum, this talis of 5 slum should be Tachas Talis Shal Hektish, should take the place of the Hektish talis. So halacha again is Hektish Padui. His Hektish is redeemed, even though it's not worth that amount. In other words, you don't say that, since he evaluated for a certain amount of money and it's not worth, like he said, his words have no value. No, it's not true. The Hektish is redeemed. He'll have to pay up like a tatala. And says the Brisa, which is the main point we want, Al Hektish Rishon Meisav Chaimish, on the first Hektish, because again he's transferring out to something else, so there's a Hektish Sheni. On the first Hektish, when he redeems, Meisav Chaimish adds on the fifth. Al Hektish Sheni, on this new item, if he subsequently goes and redeems that, Meisav Chaimish, you don't add on the fifth. Again, that's exactly like the halacha of B'Shum Alevi, that Hektish Sheni, not Meisav Chaimish, saying to any time for hosting us.